And I turn to Judge Cleveland's first question, which was addressed primarily to Myanmar, but both parties were invited to respond. Judge Cleveland pointed out that Myanmar, as I said earlier, relied on evidence from the FFM reports, NGO reports, and media articles to support its assertions about ARSA, while at the same time objecting to the Gambia's reliance on the same or similar sources to prove its claims. In the Gambia's view, this is indeed a glaring contradiction, if not an exercise in hypocrisy. And this undermines Myanmar's objection to the credibility and weight of the evidence relied on by the Gambia from the same sources, especially the FFM and NGO reports. However, in addition to these independent sources of evidence, Myanmar relies and places its primary and almost all of its reliance on matters pertaining to ARSA on the Tatmadaws' own reports of alleged engagements with ARSA. It relies on these reports almost entirely for the alleged locations of ARSA attacks, which it numbers at figures much, much higher than reported by the FFM. The number of ARSA combatants, the weapons used, the number of terrorists killed, all dependent on the Tatmadaws' own internal reports. In its oral pleadings, it relied almost exclusively on these internal Tatmadaw reports. During Mr. Blum Cooper's discussion of 7 Rohingya villages that we highlighted in the first round, citing these Tatmadaw reports 34 times. And Ms. Laurie's speech on the 46 other Rohingya villages cited these Tatmadaw reports and relied on them almost entirely 35 times. They also relied repeatedly on self-serving statements by the Myanmar government and articles from the government-controlled media. In the first place, none of these sources can be regarded as independent. They are statements by a party made in its own interest. In the second place, as Professor Newton explained, military engagement reports are notoriously unreliable and self-serving, not only in Myanmar, but around the world. Field officers do not report their war crimes or other violations of the rules of engagement, and superior officers don't want to hear about them. Sizes of the attacking force, numbers of them killed, are also notoriously unreliable, as is whether engagement with the enemy actually took place. Professor Newton testified that this notorious unreliability is attributable to the reporting officer's self-interest in inflating his unit's achievements by inflating the number of attackers, the weapons they carried, and the number killed. As examples, he cited the horrific attack by U.S. Marines on civilians at Haditha in Iraq, and the infamous and grossly inflated body counts reported by U.S. forces during the Vietnam War. We therefore urge the court to treat any evidence presented by Myanmar that is sourced in the Tatmadaws' own reports or in witness statements taken from its own officers, or in the accounts provided by Myanmar's state-controlled media, with extreme caution if it decides to treat with them at all. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the court. This completes my presentation. I am deeply, deeply grateful for your kind courtesy and patient attention to this long presentation. And this concludes the Gambia's submissions for this morning's session.